the technical problem. There was a call and the stream was gone. So that is another link, but it's okay. And Christine has joined back. Sorry to you as well, Christine, for this inconvenience.
No problem.
But it's okay. This is how life goes on. So, yeah, I was just going to ask that the philosophy of education, which you learned from that international understanding and tolerance, how did it influence your own life?
It I think the most important thing it did was that I became very engaged in anti-racist, not movements, but I became very aware what racism is,
Yeah.
and that has been very, very important for me. Simply since I met people, young other people, and like I said before, when talking about the European school, again, as teenagers, we had exactly the same problems. And if you looked away from the skin color, their religion, their political beliefs, we were just the same. We were struggling with all the typical teenage problems. But racism, that has been what I learned about the most, and what I realized what that did to people.
Okay, so your experience, was it positive, negative, or
It was
what do you want to say about that?
the experience going to this college was definitely only positive, because I had to think about things and issues that I had never encountered in my life before, and I had to adjust some ideas, simply because, well, I didn't know people from from those countries, and like I said before, what also surprised me so much was that many people from Asia, from small islands like Western Samoa, they knew a lot about Europe, but we didn't know anything about them.
Yeah, that is true.
And that, looking at the fact that we in Europe think we are the center of the world, that was very eye-opening to realize we are not. The world is much bigger.
That is true. And I can see all that in your personality. I do remember our first encounter when in the staff room you talked to me and all that stuff. Your compassion, your love, your care for me, the way you talked to me. I felt like I am just talking to my elder sister. I felt like that. So maybe that is due to your this schooling and your philosophy, and you have gone through during your life. Okay, you mentioned that your school had visitors from around the world, including Nelson Mandela as patron. So, what impression did those experiences leave on you as a student? And did you ever see him around or?
No, he was a patron
Okay.
for the school,
Mm-hmm.
but there were so many visitors, and it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, but there's one. It wasn't a visit, but we
Mm-hmm.
had a retreat where we went to a cloister, and there we had one of my second years. She was Christian, but she also believed in Buddhism, so she combined these two, and we and that was the first time in our life I actually had a meditation,
Wow.
and that was very different for me, because I didn't even know what it was. I was 16
Okay.
years old, so
Oh, it's too young
yeah.
for these
So that was
experiences.
very good. And then I remember another person who has really influenced me is Sir Fleming. So he was Archbishop of Canterbury,
Mm-hmm.
and he had traveled a lot. He had been to the North Pole, and he was a very impressive person. And he showed so much interest in us. He showed compassion, and and I remember I took him swimming. He was much older at the
Mm-hmm.
time. I think he was about 75.
Oh,
And we became very close.
oh,
And that was very interesting, because that's somebody I would have never met if I hadn't been
been
to the
there.
college.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, it's really, and I can see you are recalling your memories, and I can see in your eyes that you are lost somewhere, and you are just picking those images. So I believe that those experiences would be
Mm,
very nice and heartwarming.
mm,
Okay. Then my next question is that the IB curriculum actually originated at the United World College, as you mentioned earlier.
mm,
And how did you experience its early spirit, combining high academic standards with social engagement, which was, of course, your motivation to go there? So
yeah.
how did it happen, and what's your opinion about that?
Um, since the IB demands a lot from you, because it definitely is, I would say, the most difficult, how should I say, the most difficult curriculum
Mm-hmm.
for finishing upper secondary school. Very demanding, but I believe that um, it was definitely worth it. And one of the things that I found was is so good with the IB is that it does not look only at academic achievements, when it looks at the person as a whole. So you're also supposed to do sports and to
Mm-hmm.
do arts, and most important, to give the community around you something back. And
That
this
is.
idea of being engaged in the local community and doing something that people there need, I find is also part of the idea of broadening your horizon, but also of showing empathy and being engaged, not just thinking about yourself, but looking further. Um, looking out. I mean, what I did was I was part of the internet ILB, which was the inshore lifeboat,
Mhm.
and I and a friend, we were the only girls actually to be able to take out the official lifeboat. And we had two call outs, and that they were people who, one was just a little motorboat that had problems, so we pulled them back. But the other one was we were looking for somebody who had drowned. And again, that was something completely different. I would have never seen that. But that is, you do something that is needed, because we were the lifeboat station for,
Mhm.
we covered 20 miles of the coast,
Yeah,
and we were responsible for, if there was a problem, then we
you will
would
take care of them.
go out
Mm.
and take care of that.
Mm.
Of course, there were other things that you could do. For example, we had also something that was called extramural,
Mm.
and a friend of mine chose that, and that's when you went into prison and talked to people.
Yeah, wow.
And then, since the lifeboat station had to remain open during the summer,
Mm.
I stayed back.
Mm.
And of course, there weren't call outs the whole time. So, what
Mm.
we did was we worked with young people who had Down syndrome,
Yeah.
and we took them kayaking in the pool,
Mm.
and we simply played with them. And again, I had never met somebody with Down syndrome. And
Oh.
it was a wonderful experience to see
Mm.
their joy when they managed to achieve something.
Yeah,
And that was again life forming for me. It it helped me to look at people who were different from me
yeah.
in another way, to see that, well, they were wonderful.
Yeah, Christina, actually, I must add some comments here that you are such a beautiful soul and empathetic person. And although it's not part of my official questions, but when we were talking, you told me about your love and your marriage and the person you met. If you feel free, you can tell about that, that even meeting your love was also one of these stories. If you could share, that would be great.
Yes. I met my husband, he was 2 years older, but he went to the same college. He went there 1978 to 80, and I went there from 1980 to 82.
Mm,
But we met in the summer when we were both working at the lifeboat station and both working with handicapped children.
mm,
And well, we both then went back to our, he was Swedish, or he is Swedish,
yeah.
and we both went back to our countries. I went to Germany, he went to Sweden, and we had a long distance relationship for 7 years
Mm.
with
That is
lots
great.
of,
Yeah, actually, long distance relationship, of course, it has something to be very impressed. But for me, you both working with the same things, the your schools, that empathy, that social work, that integration, which brought you two guys together. You German, he Swedish, and so IB, as we discussed earlier with Gunnar, that IB is not just education system; it's a whole philosophy and way of living, and it
yes,
teaches you and the critical thinking, and then the theory of knowledge and
yes,
CAS and this community services and integration, and then looking at the people and putting your feet in someone other's shoes for a while. So
mhm,
it gives a real value, and be a part of a curriculum. I really appreciate it.
mm,
So, although I was never an IB student, although my daughter was, as I told you, or I am teaching to IB students, but I really appreciate these ideas of IB. These are really unique. And of course, we need people like this. Anyhow, if it were a stream about only you, it would be very romantic and empathetic with light music. And maybe sometime, someday, we will do that as well. Because I can see that romance. I want to listen to your stories of that time. And I'm sure that those are very beautiful. But today, since we are talking about IB and the future of IB here, so I will have to shift to that part as well. But before shifting to that, your academic and professional path, I will just ask a question with sort of comment that would you say your time at UWC planted the seeds for your later commitment to IB teaching as well?
definitely,
Mm.
definitely. Because, like I said before, I think the IB gives you the best education you can have as a teenager. And it also prepares you to work on your own
Yeah,
when you
independent.
go to
Mm.
university. When I went to university, suddenly
Mm.
I thought, "Oi, this is nothing."
Yeah,
it was
because
it
you're,
felt really easy,
yeah, that
and I
is
was
true.
far more able to find information,
Yeah,
because that's part of what the IB demands of you. You're supposed to, at a very early age, to research something.
that is
Like,
true.
it's
Mm.
something we haven't mentioned yet, but we have to write an extended essay.
Yeah, that's true.
And that, and you go into depth. You're very young to go into depth as a 16-year-old. And that also, I had to find, well, we didn't have computers at the time.
Yeah.
That's something we have to remember.
Yeah, of course.
But I wrote about the history of the European Union.
Okay.
Uh, and well, I had to go into depth about that. There was no written information about that. I lived in, I wrote part of that research I did when I was back home.
Mm-hmm.
And but again, that is something I would have never done, simply to research something at that age and go into depth.
That is
That
true.
was very, very good and prepared me very well for university later on.
Yeah, I have observed it myself as I was this morning. I was discussing with Gunnar as well that the things, especially the research and the referencing and different referencing styles, I learned during my PhD, but my daughter learned during her DP. So this is the difference.
Mm,
This is the difference, and that's why I'm so fond of IB system.
mm.
Okay, Christine, coming to your academic and professional path, the second part of this conversation. So, after finishing your diploma, you studied law before moving to languages like English, French, and Italian. What led to that change in direction?
It was a personal
Hmm.
change because my then boyfriend
Okay.
lived in Sweden, and I knew that
Mm,
law, it was very, very difficult to find
mm,
a job with law in another country.
okay.
But it was also that I'm a language person. I love languages,
Mm.
and
Which I am not.
uh, and working with small paragraphs and having to apply them, that was simply not my thing.
Okay.
And going back to languages, I just loved that. I studied, like I said, English and then Romance languages.
Yeah.
And so that was the reason, actually. But I really did not like it either.
Okay. So you also spent time in the French speaking part of Switzerland to improve your language skills. And how did immersion in another culture deepen your understanding of communication and empathy?
Um, I knew about Switzerland
Hmm.
um, because it was very close to, I was actually born in Switzerland. But
Hmm.
it suddenly, I was put, just as in Germany, I was put um, into a country. Well, there you had three different main, you could say, cultures. Um, but it was also a new experience, as well as the new experience was when I moved to Germany, since that was the
Hmm.
first time at 19 that I'd lived in Germany.
Hmm.
But they're similar. It was very similar, simply to suddenly move from an international um,
Culture.
background, or international
Mm.
situation, to a
Mm.
national one. That
Yeah.
again taught me. Um, Again, I had to defend myself against not being careful not to talk too much about my
Mm.
international background,
Hmm.
but also at the same time be open to people who have not lived abroad.
Yeah, that is true.
And
Mm.
that was again a new experience for me
Experience. Mm.
and a very important experience, because coming from the United World College,
Mm.
it was a little bit like an island,
Hmm.
and it's very important for international people also to see that not everybody has this broad horizon,
Yeah.
but to accept people that are there. But what I did was, having been to having looked at what other people from other countries and other cultures are like, it influenced me to be more open and inquisitive. And that again is something that the IB encourages. You
Yeah,
want students to be inquisitive, to be open-minded.
that is true.
And and that is very important nowadays, especially.
Yeah, more important. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
To try
absolutely
and
right.
understand
Mm,
other cultures, be
mm.
open and not to judge, say he is that, she is that, she comes from there, she has this religion, and then just close your doors and not be interested again in that person.
Very nice, very impressive. So later you earned both a master's and pedagogical degree in Germany. And how did this academic foundation prepare you for international teaching, which you are doing now?
Well, it prepared me very well because I studied languages and I was going to teach languages.
Hmm.
So that was a very logical step. And I felt that was, it just felt that was what I wanted to do. And that was good. And I moved to Sweden then and teaching, and I applied for a position. I applied to IB schools and I got a position there at IB school. And so the international bit, I could take that with me. And one thing that has influenced my teaching so much is that I often focus or talk about racism and use that in classrooms
Hmm.
and talk about that. And again, that is the opening and that tolerance. And that's something that I try to bring to the students to make them reflect and to broaden their horizon and to show them that you need to understand that beneath everything, people are the same.
Yeah. Although they come from different culture and background,
Yeah,
their point of views can be different, but their needs, their requirements, and the humanitarian basis are the same.
yes.
We have the same color of blood. Okay, then moving to Sweden and then Norway. And how did you experience the transition between different education system, like your international IB, then Germany, then Sweden, and then Norway? If you can just give some differences or the similarities.
Yeah. Of course, moving from one country to another
Mhm.
is not always easy.
Yeah, of course.
But if we talk about teaching, um, I the Swedish and the Norwegian system are slightly different. If I can focus on language teaching.
Yeah.
Um, it's I felt that it was better the way the Norwegian um, system worked because in Sweden languages were dissected into grammatical paragraphs. And while I believe that languages, it is to communicate, that's the basis of language. And um, you have to communicate. Even more important nowadays, of course, openness again comes into that. But here it trains you to write essays and to reflect. And that was something that was completely lost in Sweden.
Oh, I
So
didn't know about that.
yeah,
Hmm.
I found that transition, if just simply as a teacher, I found, of course, it was difficult, new curriculum, again, a new language. Um, but I found that was a very good, much better way of teaching languages than it was in Sweden.
Okay. Then this is an information for me, the new information. Okay, so something drew you to teaching in IB schools, and how long have you now been part of IB community?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, how long you have been part of IB community?
if we start with 80 since 1980, but that
Wow.
was as a student, of course.
Yeah.
But since then, I've been part of the community because we have, um, in when I lived in Sweden, we had friends, of course, who'd been there, and I receive a pamphlet every. Well, we have that on the net now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still connected and still follow the news about
Mm-hmm.
Atlantic College, the way it has
Mm-hmm.
changed, and look at what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still very much part of that
You are.
because I feel it's important, and it's important to also to promote the IB as such, and that is something that I can do, that I did in Sweden, and that is something. And I had students who actually managed to attend one of the United World Colleges, but
Mm-hmm.
that's also something that I can do here. I have
Oh,
given students information about that. But I feel that teaching languages here is definitely better than it was in Sweden.
oh, that's good, and I am happy to know that. Okay, so since the age of 16 and half and today, you are the IB community, either as student or as teacher or as a colleague or and parents. Have your daughters, have they
I have
studied
one
IB?
daughter, yes, one daughter who took the
So
IB.
as parent and everything, so you are whole IB structure in front of me, the social, just saying hi to me, oh, I have seen you, so what are you doing here, and then exchanging numbers. And it did not happen to anyone else except you.
Mhm.
Because I have been there in the staff room just saying hello, hi, and that's it. But the exchanging phone numbers was something one step forward. So that was due to you, and of course your personality. So this is my personal experience that I be. You might be a beautiful soul by yourself, but I have played its role as
Yes.
well. Anyhow, now coming towards the part three, that inside the IB classroom. Um, of course, I will not ask that what subjects do you. Okay, maybe I can ask that at Lillestrøm videregående skole, what subjects do you currently teach, and how do you apply the IB philosophy to your
Uh,
language teaching?
yes. At the moment, I only teach German, and
Mm-hmm.
I do not teach the IB
Mm-hmm.
because a colleague of mine took over.
Mm-hmm.
And simply since we all wanted to have, everybody is supposed to have the right to
Yeah.
teach the IB, but
Mm-hmm.
we also, of course, have a problem of enrolling students, and not enrolling students, but finding students who want to study languages, who want to study German.
Yeah.
Um, but I used to teach, and um, teaching language, I taught German. What was there a slight challenge was the fact that we had two different curriculum in the same class. We had German for the third year, and we had a few IB students.
Okay.
But what I could do is parts of those, I combined those two curriculums, and I managed to use the IB students and their inquisitive way, and teach the other students how you could approach certain
Mm.
problems.
That
And
is.
that I felt was both parts, both the Norwegian students and the students who partly were from abroad. I think they both profited from this.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, two approaches meeting together, both of them would have taken advantage of that. Okay. The next question is that, and you have already touched it, but okay, it's question for the sake of question. The IB encourage students to be inquirers and critical thinkers. And how do you foster those qualities in your classroom?
I ask the students questions. Either
Mm-hmm.
that, try and research
Mm-hmm.
this. That is the what I do the most, because that is because many students, when you're 15, 16, it can be difficult for you to formulate, for example, a research question.
Mm-hmm.
So then I guide them and I help them to do that. Um, and simply, I think their dialogue is very important. And there was a student of mine who did the extended essay,
Mm-hmm.
and we met frequently because that person needed simply a guide to help and needed a tutor.
Okay.
So and that was a very good experience again.
This was going to be my next question, and you were
Sorry.
one question ahead. But of course, you can share another experience, and that is that can you share a classroom example where IB students surprised you with their creativity or problem solving skills?
Yes, there was this one time where we went to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Germany with 12 students, and each student had to formulate a research question. And now this may sound very banal, but there was one student who decided to research about the curry
Mm-hmm.
sausage, which is something that is
Yeah,
very, very typical for
yeah.
Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask somebody from Germany, what do you think, and which sausage do you think about? Then they say currywurst.
Mm-hmm.
And what this student did, he went to 5 different restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
tested what the currywurst tasted like,
Mm-hmm.
what you had as side dishes,
Okay.
and after that he read a book about, which is not it's a novel about how the currywurst became very famous,
Okay. Okay.
and he went to a museum,
Oh
a
my God.
currywurst, and to find that really impressed me because he looked at it was a very broad approach
All the
to this
aspects.
one
Mm.
to this little sausage. And I was very impressed because that showed he was really inquisitive. He was
Yeah.
open, and
Mm.
he found different a book, a restaurant,
Yeah.
something to read, a
Yeah.
restaurant, and a
And the
museum.
museum. Yeah, that is great. So he
Mm.
was doing actually micro research on
Yes.
all the teeny tiny details.
Yes, you can
Yeah,
definitely call it
yeah.
that.
This is what IB teaches you: in-depth knowledge, research, and to know and to explore even a small thing like here, and you just okay. How is it? Okay, thank you for this sharing. Actually, you have written everything, and last night I read and I thoroughly enjoyed. And I must confess that I know these things because you sent me the word document, and you have mentioned this. And now listening it with your smile and that brightness in your eyes, it's more overwhelming. Okay, the next question is theory of knowledge means TOK, and CAS means creativity, activity, and service. These two, especially, and of course, the third extended essay you have already mentioned, these are unique to IB. How do these shape a student's character beyond academics?
Um, well, it shapes their personality.
Yeah.
It's TOK teaches you again to think critically, but also to think critically about something that you yourself have written.
Yeah.
So to take a critical approach to that and not just let it be and say this is good, but go back to what you've written and then think think again about this.
Mhm.
Was that good? And then change it. And TOK is partly philosophy, and that is something that you do not have in the normal Norwegian
Yeah.
curriculum
Yeah. I
because
think
it
nowhere I haven't learned about
well,
TOK
yeah,
except IB. Yeah.
you could think about it's meta thinking
Mm.
about what
Mm.
you have written.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what was the second part of your question?
CAS,
Yeah,
creativity, activity, and service.
yeah, that is something we talked about a little bit earlier. But the
Yeah,
IB looks at you as a person, a whole person,
yeah,
not just it's not
yeah,
just your brain,
yeah.
but it's also your body, your
That's
senses. It's
everything.
sports, and then it's culture,
That's true.
and then, like we said before, it's of course giving the society something back. To why sports? The fact the IB does not have sports as a subject.
Mhm.
So the IB part of the IB diploma is that you yourself have to find sports, and you have to find something that has to do with arts, which means, again, you have to find that. There's no teacher who tells you, this is, you can work with this, or you
Yeah.
can work with this. And to give you an example of what was done, what could one student gave helped student via the Red Cross, taught them English.
Mhm.
Um, my daughter, she organized a jumble sale, flea market,
Okay.
to collect money for an orphanage in
Mhm.
Kaliningrad.
Mhm.
We have had, there's also been cooperation with a school in Ghana.
Mhm.
And so money was spent there. We had a student from Ghana, Bartholomew, staying with us for a week.
Mhm.
And since my daughter also took this, she also learned something. She learned a lot. And so this mens sana in corpore sano, that is also part of this IB.
Mhm.
And it broadens again the again, what I said before, and what I think is very important to stress and to emphasize, is the fact that the IB teaches you to take initiative, to find something out, not just academically, but you have to go into your local community and see, what does the community need?
To
How
think.
can I help people? And this is the idea as well behind that. You as a person, you have to help. Empathy, you mentioned empathy before,
Yeah.
and empathy is definitely part of this. It's the IB, it's a whole philosophy, and there's so many elements to this philosophy. So it's very difficult to mention everything, but simply CAS, I think, is so important to form a person. And and I keep on coming back to the fact that you have to be inquisitive, and
That is true.
and this simply is so important, and it will also help you later on,
So
not just.
you should be able to think out of the box, the critical thinking, raising
Yes.
questions, how, where, why, Wodan in
Yeah.
Norwegian.
Yeah.
I'm learning Norwegian nowadays, so
Mhm.
all these questions, and
Mhm.
then the solutions, and then comparison of two solutions.
Yeah.
Drofting in
Mhm.
Norwegian. So
Mhm.
all that it's part of IB studies.
Mhm.
Okay, from your experience, how does the IB learner profile connect with Norwegian educational values such as equality, democracy, and cooperation? Once
Well,
again, it's a repetition, but
yeah.
you can answer.
Well, Norway is a country that is very democratic. It everybody according to his or her ability, and it is everybody can. It's a very egalitarian society,
Mhm.
and it also promotes, of course, thinking of others. Think of others. Do something for others. So in that way, it is quite similar. But again, I keep on coming back to this point. The Norwegian system does not encourage you to be inquisitive. Quite the contrary. We as teachers, we experience that we have to do more and more for the students. We do not, we're not, and this is something that we have to do. It's not something that we want to do, but we have to do. We have to make things easier the whole time for the students. From year to year, it feels that we have to do more for the students, and which of course makes them become less less adult or less, they rely on you as a teacher. While in the IB, it's exactly the opposite from the IB, because the IB educates you to manage things on your own, to be inquisitive, while Norwegian students, they are made to be more children somehow. I mean, this sounds terrible, but they're not as independent. I mean,
Okay.
of course, speaking generally,
Mhm.
but it's we teachers, we make things easy for them.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
little example is very small example. Um, which page is this on?
Yeah, that
Okay.
is true.
And where
They
do I
ask.
find the link? Even though you have the
Mm,
plan on, you
mm,
have everything on the blackboard,
mm,
whiteboard, and nowadays,
yeah,
still they it's difficult for them to find it, and they're not used to finding information.
yeah,
While the IB forces you to do that.
yeah, that is true. You should be. And you know, I don't know, Christine. As I told you, I was never an IB student, but my approach, maybe I don't know from where did I get it from. But you know, when my daughter, she was working on her extended essays, and it was COVID time, and I had my mobile phone from 2006. Yeah, the old one, and she got the new one. And once when we were looking for the links and the resources, she used to say, oh, your this old mobile phone, it gives you the right things, you find very quickly, and I cannot find as quickly. Um, and she compared it, at least she compared it, that your old mobile is able to find things more quickly as compared to my new phone, because she had back in mind that finding things from a lot of other resources and to write information, because with the incoming years, we discussed this morning as well, when there is a lot of information coming from this and that and different point of views and paper people coming to convince you that this is true, this is true, this, if you are not grounded, if you are not having a firm base, and if you are not able to find the things in details and look deeply into the matter, you will believe everyone, oh, he's right, she is right, that is right, that is right. So IB approach, that is really needed, so that you can look at the thing from all different perspectives, you can reflect, and especially two teachers teaching the same subject, if that happens here, then the two different approaches, and then with that different perspectives, then you can look in a better way. So this is what IB is preparing, not only the students but the teachers as well, the whole community is being prepared, and we are learning from one another. Students come with very stupid questions, apparently, but of course, no question is stupid. Every question can be answered, and it has an answer. So, if those stupid questions keep on coming, we keep on thinking, and this is how new knowledge is generated and then spread. So, the question, the queries, and to be curious, these are sometimes it's god gifted, and sometimes of course we have to polish it, and just spoon feeding, it will kill your own personality and your own god gifted abilities you are born with. So the very right thing, very unique thing about this schooling system is that the student come with their own ideas, and teachers are there to help them and flourish. That okay, you come with this idea, this is the way, this is the information, these are the resources, look at this, and this is how they learn. And then it become part of their personality. It's not only the knowledge, it becomes their muscle memory, and then their whole body, as you said, that it's about the whole personality. Anyhow, I was just speaking, I should not, I should just listen to you, which is I'm supposed to do. But anyhow, I was just overwhelmed regarding these things. Okay. Next question is that some parents believe that IB is very demanding. Yes, it is, I know. How do you support student well-being while maintaining its academic rigor?
What I do is I talk to the students a lot.
Mm.
I tell them that you can contact me when you need help.
Mm.
And what is very important, of course, is the relationship you have with the student. And you have to show the student empathy, put yourself into the student's situation, and then try and find a solution from there. But it's the personal relationship that is so important.
Yeah.
And of course, I agree that it is demanding, but students, they benefit so much from that that I believe it's worth every minute that you study.
Yeah, the reason is they eventually they will be prepared to take the real world problems
Yeah.
heads on.
Yeah.
We are
It,
prepared.
there's one more important thing which we haven't
Mm.
talked about, that is that
Mm.
we as teachers, we are tutors. We
Mm.
do not give the final exam. There are only parts of the curriculum where we give grades.
Yeah.
But that also makes it has two advantages. For one, you as a teacher, you're not the one who has to judge the student,
Yeah.
but you're the tutor. And the second thing, which I think is very important also with the IB, is that teachers who do not know you, grade you.
Yeah.
Since everything is sent into Switzerland and to Geneva, and from there it's sent to different parts of the world. And that is it it becomes fairer, I feel, than if you receive a grade from a teacher that you know.
Yeah.
Of
That is
course,
true.
because then you're
Human
compared to
factor. Yeah.
you're compared with people from all over the world.
Mm.
And that I think is also something that is an advantage in the IB, the relationship between teacher and student,
Yeah.
and the fact that the grade is what I think is fair.
Yeah, that is true. Perfect. Okay, now coming to the last part of our conversation, which is the most crucial one. We are here for that. That IB in Norway and Akershus. How do you see IB education contributing to Norway's broader goals of inclusion, diversity, and international cooperation?
First of all, IB students, many classes that I've seen are already a mixture of different nationalities,
Yes.
different cultures. Um, so the student already starts at an early age to meet other people that are different from him or her. Then IB students are often high achievers. Many of them then go and study abroad,
Mm.
and then they come back, and then they contribute different. Um, they contribute with different things. For example, if you look at academia, they have a knowledge from another country which can benefit
Yeah.
the Norwegian people. If we take, there are so many examples, but if we look at research, for example, if you go to Imperial College and you study there engineering, and then you can come back to Norway, and then you have something else to give to the locals, to Norway, to the knowledge that is here. So again, you get people who have a very solid knowledge and who are very good academically, but also they have been outside of Norway, and they take that experience back to Norway, and that is very important because despite everything, Norway is a small country,
Yeah.
and Norway lies on the board, lies kind of up in
Top
yeah,
roof
exactly at
of
the
the
top.
world.
So it is important for
Yeah.
Norwegian people to meet people who've been outside, Norwegians who've
Mm.
been outside, who then come back with very good knowledge and very good degrees.
And culture and values and integration and everything. So you
Yeah.
the more
And then
chance
it's,
of
yeah.
learning.
And
Yeah.
one thing also, if we come back to Lillestrøm videregående, our
Mm.
students perform above the um,
Average.
above the average. So
Yeah.
that is why
Mm.
Lillestrøm has prepares the students very well
Yeah.
for the final exams. And I
Yeah.
think that is very important to know and to emphasize.
Yeah, that is true. Actually, I mentioned in the previous stream that Norway's average is 37, far above the global average of 30.
Mhm.
So this is Norway's average, and of course, Lillestrøm, my own daughter, she was above 40. So this is how it is. Okay, what distinguishes IB graduates you have taught, and how do this stand out later in higher education or in life? We have discussed it, but question is there for the sake of question.
Mhm.
So
Um,
maybe in few sentences.
mhm. They, I think they're often broader minded.
Hmm.
They are, um, they are more inquisitive,
Hmm.
and they give society back what society has given them. And many of the students that I know perform very well at university as well,
Hmm.
simply because the basis that they have, which we've mentioned before, is prepares them so well, and they've undergone a rigorous education. And I think in many ways that distinguishes them from Norwegian students, simply because they're better prepared. And also, something that we have not talked about, many students in the IB are very ambitious. They start the IB knowing that this is a demanding program,
Okay, but they are
and
not
that
really
drives them.
motivated. Okay.
Yes.
Hmm. That can be a problem. Okay, although you have mentioned in previous talk, but once again, since I have a question, so I wish to ask that what is unique about teaching IB in Norway compared to Germany or Sweden? You have answered it already, but anything else more?
I do not find a difference
Hmm.
between the IB system in Norway, Sweden, or Germany,
Hmm.
since the curriculum is the same. So
Yeah,
there's no difference.
yeah. Okay, then the most critical question, the Akershus Fylkes Commune proposal to close government-based, government-supported IB schools has worried many parents and teachers. What is your perspective on this?
It should definitely not be taken away from the Norwegian school
Mm.
system. There's several reasons, but one that we've already talked about, that the students learn learn a lot. They're well prepared for university, but then also you have to have a diversity in Norway, different systems that
Mm.
you can choose among, and the world becomes more and more international. So you have to give students a possibility to prepare themselves for maybe moving abroad and coming back.
Mm.
That, and also it's important that if you look um, from outside towards Norway, to know this can also give a boost to the way the Norwegian system, the education system is looked upon, that you do not just have one system, but you also have several other systems.
Yeah.
And so I think it's I think it's vital that we keep this system. It really is important.
What
And
do you think?
I cannot underline this too much.
Yeah, we have discussed it earlier this morning too. What do you think Norway would lose educationally and culturally if IB schools were reduced or closed down?
Well, Norway would lose high achievers. Yeah,
Educationally and culturally.
yeah.
Mm.
Educationally, of course, it would lose, like I said before, high achievers. But
Mm.
culturally, it would also lose um, the fact that you have students from a different background who have studied in Norway, but a different have taken a different
Routes. Mm. Mm.
school system, and um, and it's important for Norwegian students or for Norwegian people as well to see there is an alternative to the mainstream educational system,
Mm.
and it is important that this is available, and it can give, when students meet each other, then talking about the IB and explaining what it is, and for example, taking a very specific, talking about a research question
Mm.
that can help influence the other person as well. But I find this is a very difficult question because it's such a broad question.
Yeah.
Culture, what is the definition of culture? And we get, but this this play between two different systems, I think, is very, very important. Um, that I believe that the students can benefit from that, and then later on, also, if, for example, if you look at students who have been abroad and they take with them a new culture, because, for
Yeah.
example, they've lived in the
Mm.
US or in Canada or in Japan or China, and then they come back and take this bit of the culture back to Norway and talk to other Norwegians and teach these other Norwegians something that Norwegians have not been able to experience, simply because IB students they are more international.
The ambassadors,
Yes,
they go with their culture, and then people
yes,
come here. And if I want to give my personal example, that my daughter came from Pakistan. She was in after her MYP, and DP here helped her. Me as a person, I have knowledge about sciences, many techniques which I have learned over the years. This IB system gave me a chance that I can deliver it to students. If it were only Norwegian, I'm really bad in Norwegian. I am just helpless person. But being in English, being in an international thing, uh, IB can take advantage of my knowledge, my experience. That is a chance for me as well, and for students as well. And sometimes, yes, I know that since I came from Pakistani with a very Indian background, of especially in mathematics, and I must say very proudly that we Indians, we are actually far better than many people in mathematics, especially our techniques of solving things like this. And then we can teach these to Norwegian students as well. if they wish to. So Norway can benefit from people like me, from people coming from Sri Lanka, from India, from Pakistan, all that area, especially in mathematics, and, and so many other things as well, of course. That's why I think that losing IB may lose many things on the fronts of education, culture, language, integrity, socialization, empathy, globalization, in, to be inclusive, and all these things will be lost with this. Anyhow, almost we are going towards end, thanks to time management. Yeah, that was great. So if you could send one message to policymakers in Akershus, what would you ask them to consider before making a final decision?
Consider how today, how important it is to be open to other nations, to other people from other backgrounds. And the IB gives you the opportunity to see that.
Yeah,
So the international bit and the cultural bit is the most important, I would say.
that is true. Okay, finally, Christina, after so many years of shaping young minds, what gives you the most hope about the future of IB education in Norway and around the world?
What gives me the most hope is
Yeah.
the fact that the IB has grown, it's been taken over. I mean, it started in Atlantic College at the end, in the middle of the 70s, and now I don't even know how many schools we have. And it came to
Mhm.
Norway,
Yeah.
and it came to Germany, it came to Great Britain, Switzerland, and that gives me so much hope. And in addition, it shows how good this education is.
System is. Yeah. And you have seen that little plant growing like tree, and I am one of those who have benefited from that in terms of my daughter and then I myself teaching. And you are among the pioneers when you told me, I was there when curriculum was being developed and among the very early students, and you have seen it growing. And when you talk about IB, it, it comes in your eyes, in your smile, in your body language. So you are living IB. Okay, Christina, thank you very much for sharing your story and your deep insight into the world of IB education. And from your early days at the World College in Wales to your years of teaching at Lillestrøm, your journey, it of course beautifully reflects what IB truly stands for: international understanding, open mindedness, and lifelong learning, the philosophy, the way of living, uh, the
Thank
persona of IB.
thank
And
you so much for having me.
yeah, I'm really delighted and honored. And earlier today, in our morning conversation with Gunnar, we spoke about the philosophy of IB, about knowledge, ethics, and critical thinking, and with you, of course, more about languages as well. And through your experience, we have seen the heart of IB. I must say, the heart of IB, because you are a living IB, how it shapes the students who are not only academically capable, but also empathetic, curious, and globally aware. And together, these two conversations reveal true spirit of international baccalaureate in Norway, a system that connects knowledge with humanity and learning with purpose. And as Akershus County considers the future of its IB schools, let us remember what is at stake. Many things we have discussed. These schools are not just classrooms, they are bridges between cultures, places where future leaders learn to listen, question, and care. And thank you very much, whoever has watched it. Please share with family and friends, and especially in Norway, because we want to spread this message. And to everyone watching, teachers, parents, students, and policymakers, this is the time to raise your voice and say with conviction, my little Norwegian, Bevar IB Norge. Please save IB in Norge. Thank you very much,
Thank
Christine, for
you.
being part of this important dialogue. And thank you all for joining on this journey and to keep the international education alive in Norway. And before leaving, I will say, which I say in every stream, take care of yourself, people around you, your loved ones, your environment. Take care of life. Be empathetic. Be IB student. Be like IB students. Be global. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. We'll see you.
Thank you
And
much
once
for having
again,
me.
thank you, Christine. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Allah Hafiz.